This is the US Water System's all-American 5-stage reverse osmosis system. In this video, we'll be showing you how to replace the filters, sanitize the system, and hook your system back up. You can do this filter change under your sink with the system still hooked up, but for the sake of this video, I've removed it, put it on the table, just to give myself a little bit more room to work. First thing you want to do is shut off your inlet water supply. That's the angle stop valve located on your cold water supply line. The second step is to shut off your tank valve. That is the blue handled valve on top of your holding tank. Once that's complete, open up your reverse osmosis system faucet to relieve any pressure built up in the lines. When removing the system from under the sink, I like to have a cake pan or a baking tray or some Tupperware to catch any water that may be built up in the lines or in the filter housings. So at this point, you should have the water shut off. Now you can remove the membrane from the horizontal housing up top by backing out the membrane housing cap. You may need to disconnect the tubing. In this example, we have already. Also, you can remove the filters from the housings on the lower sumps using the included filter wrench. When removing the filter, you'll slide the sump down. The filter will most likely remain locked in place to the sump cap. You can just break that loose. At this point, this is trash. You can throw that out. Move on, repeat the process. If it's really tight, break it loose using the filter wrench included, and you can get the rest off with your hand. Once all the vertical sumps are removed, you can go ahead and remove the membrane. To remove the membrane, you loosen the membrane cap. Note that there is an O-ring that can be easily lost. It goes right here in the bottom of this cap. Sometimes when this is getting removed, that can get lost and forgotten about. Without it, this will not seal, so it's very important. To remove the membrane from the actual housing, sometimes you can use a hook or a pick. If you're really strong, you can get it with your fingers. A lot of cases, you can use a set of needle nose pliers, channel locks to pull that out. Just be really careful not to scar the end of this membrane. Store the membrane in a Ziploc bag or a cup or bucket of water while you're completing the process. At this point, your 3 vertical filters should be removed from the housings, the membrane should be removed, and for this process, your inline post filter can remain in place. Using the included sanitizing solution, draw 5 milliliters with the included syringe, pour the remainder of the sanitizing solution into the first filter housing sump, and then with the remaining 5 milliliters in the syringe, remove the green line from the T, invert it to relieve any water pressure, inject directly into the line. This will sanitize your tank. At that point, you can return the green tube to the T. Reassemble the sump to the cap. At this point, you can go ahead and turn on your inlet supply water, open up your tank valve, and allow the system to fill with sanitized water. This will take between 5 to 10 minutes. Allow the system to rest for 10 minutes, open up the faucet, and let it run for 10 minutes. Repeat this process, fill the system, let it rest for 10 minutes, and let it run for an additional 10 minutes. At this point, the sanitation process has been completed. Now you can shut off the inlet supply, the tank valve, open up the faucet to relieve the pressure, and we can begin replacing the filters. Okay, we can begin installing the pre-filters. Repeat the process of removing the sumps. The filters included with the All-American RO include a double O-ring seal. We want to apply a small amount of lubricant to this and seat it into the cap. There's an O-ring installed in the sump of the housing. We'll apply a small amount of lubricant to that as well. To complete this process, you don't need to remove this O-ring. You can just apply it directly to the top. Reinstall the housing. Hand tight is sufficient for this. You don't need to crank it down with a wrench. Repeat that process for the subsequent 2 filters. At this point, we can reinstall the membrane that we originally removed. Take a little bit of silicone and lubricate the 2 O-rings on the bottom of the membrane. Reinsert. Make sure you feel that bottom all the way out. Should be flush with the end of the membrane housing. With the membrane housing, there are 2 O-rings. One is located on the end of the membrane housing. Apply a small amount of silicone to that. The second O-ring is often located in the bottom of the cap. Sometimes it'll be stuck to the actual end of the housing. Sometimes it just falls out. We want to apply a liberal amount of silicone here. Reinstall in the groove of the base of the cap. Seat and tighten. The final filter we need to replace is the inline post filter. To do that, we need to remove the T. These John Guest Quick Connect fittings have a collar on the end. To remove a fitting, you just hold that collar down with your fingernails and pull. With the T and the tubing disconnected, the stem on the inlet side and the elbow on the outlet side will need to be removed and reinstalled on the new inline post filter. They will need to be retaped. With the new inline post filter installed, you can reconnect your tubing and prepare to repressurize the system. With your fittings, tubing, housings reconnected, we can open up your inlet supply line, keep your tank valve closed, and check for any leaks. With the tank valve still closed, open up the faucet at the sink. We'll let the RO system purge out any air in the lines. Wait 5 to 10 minutes until you see a consistent, slow trickle from the faucet. Once you have a consistent trickle at the faucet, allow it to run for an additional 5 to 10 minutes. If the water appears discolored, don't be alarmed, this is normal. It's flushing out carbon fines from the filters. Shut off the faucet, open up the tank valve, and allow for roughly 2 hours for the tank to fill. Once the tank is full, open up the faucet and drain the tank. Allow for an additional 2 hours for the tank to fill. If you have no leaks and consistent water flow, congratulations, you've completed your all-American reverse osmosis filter change process. If you have any questions with your filter change process, give us a call at 800-608-8792.